about ourselves, then the result is actually conflicts. Many conflicts. Conflict with ourselves, conflict with the body, conflict with the mind, conflict with the past, conflict with the future, many.
如果我哋唔明白呢一個伴侶，呢一個我哋自己，咁我哋就會有好多嘅衝突出現啦。咁同自己嘅身體嘅衝突啦，同自己個心嘅衝突啦，同自己嘅過去嘅衝突啦，等等。
And we are facing to these conflicts often, every day. And we say life is a conflict, life is a complex. Because of this, we think we have to struggle to live.
因為咧，我哋會同自己有呢一啲嘅衝突咧，咁而係每一日都會發生嘅。咁sorry, I cannot remember all of that. I'm just a little hazy.
Well, there are a lot of conflicts in our life. And we think that is nature, that is the nature, because life is a conflict, life is a conflicts. Therefore, it is natural to have conflicts.
咁我哋咧會覺得咧，好自然地咧，生命就會係有衝突嘅。咁所以咧，我哋會覺得有衝突係好正常嘅。
So, therefore, we think nothing to do, only we have to accept whatever conflict comes, we have to accept because that is the nature. Life is a source of conflicts. Therefore, if somebody has to live, then learn to live with conflicts.
因為咧，我哋覺得咧有衝突係一個好自然、好正常嘅事，所以我哋就要去接受佢啦。咁我哋就會覺得啊，呢一樣嘢我哋唯有接受啦，因為佢一定會發生，生命就係有衝突嘅。
Dear friends, this is one of the vision or one of the views to look at the life, that the life means a problem, life means a pain, life means a suffering, a conflict. Therefore, we better to surrender to whatever uh, circumstances that we are encountering.
咁因為咧，我哋覺得咧，生命就係咁樣噶啦，呢一個係其中一個睇法。生命就係有衝突嘅，生命就係苦嘅。咁所以我哋咧就需要去，甚至係投降啦。對於生命嘅方向，覺得投降，接受呢一樣嘢。
And unfortunately, most of humans are having this idea. They believe this idea that life is a suffering. Life means suffering, and therefore we have to suffer. If we born and if we live, that means we have to suffer. There is no any other way to live.
因為咧，好多嘅人都會相信咧，生命就係有痛苦嘅，咁所以咧，我哋就需要受苦啦。咁亦都冇其他嘅方法去生活，而係唔需要受苦，所以我哋就要受苦啦。
And further, we quote Buddhism and the Buddha for to prove this idea. Even we say the Buddha says the life is suffering, and we think it's a very philosophical and deep understanding if we think about the life in this way of suffering. Life is suffering.
不過亦都咧會將呢一個嘅睇法咧就話啊，佛陀係咁講嘅喎，生命咧就係苦嘅，咁我哋就係要去受苦噶啦。
Once we did a retreat in Stockholm in Sweden, and some school teachers came to that retreat, and they said that even the Buddhism is in their school syllabus now, and they say how the first lesson begins. The first lesson of the Buddhism begins. The life is suffering. That is the first sentence of the Buddhist syllabus in their schools.
老師咧曾經咧去過斯德哥爾摩嗰度咧，有個禪修營，咁嗰度嘅老師咧就同佢講話，喺斯德哥爾摩嘅學校裏邊，佢哋係有學佛教嘅。咁佢哋學佛嘅時候咧，第一堂嘅嗰個第一堂咧就係講話生命就係苦嘅，生命就係痛苦嘅。
And therefore, they said no student wants to learn Buddhism because it's a very negative picture. The Buddhism gives a very negative picture about the life, and that lessons are giving a very dark picture about the Buddhism. Therefore, no student wants to go deeper into the Buddhist studies.
咁嗰位老師咧就講話，因為第一堂教佛教嘅時候就係講話生命就係痛苦嘅，咁所以冇學生咧係想繼續學佛教更加深入嘅，因為咧呢一個嘅信息實在係太黑暗啦，生命就係痛苦嘅。
And dear friends, I think we may also heard about this for many times that life is suffering. The Buddha said life is suffering. This is the first noble truth, that suffering is the first noble truth, so and so. And therefore, we think the Buddhism is also a religion which is speaking about suffering and says life is suffering.
咁我哋大家可能都有聽過咁樣講嘅講法，就係話啊，佛教裏邊第一個嘅即係四聖道裏邊嘅第一個聖道咧，就係講話生命就係痛苦嘅。
And there are a couple of words and terms that we have to clarify to understand the life and understand the meditation as well as to understand the Buddhism.
咁我哋其實咧有一啲嘅資料係需要澄清、釐清翻嘅、清楚翻嘅，有關佛教啦，有關呢個禪修啦，同埋有關痛苦嘅。
Of course, we all are having problems. That is true. For time to time, we all are having problems. But can we say that life is a problem because of that?
當然，我哋會喺生命裏邊遇到困難，遇到痛苦，咁但係唔係等於生命就係痛苦嘅咧？生命就係一個困難咧
？The way we live causes problems and suffering, not the life itself. The way we live makes problems and suffering.
老師就話啦，其實咧係我哋嘅生活嘅方式，令到我哋有呢啲嘅困難嘅， 就唔係因為生命本身就係困難或者痛苦。
There are difficulties. Difficulties are there. So we can suffer because of difficulties, or we can also face to difficulties without suffering. There are difficulties, and one can suffer because of difficulties. Also, someone else can face to difficulties and try to overcome those difficulties without suffering.
當然，生命裏邊係有困難嘅，有挑戰嘅。可以有一種嘅生活嘅方法係就係覺得生命就係有呢啲困難，有痛苦，咁所以就會受苦啦。但係亦都有一啲人咧係可以面對呢一啲嘅挑戰，佢哋係可以面對呢啲困難，但唔一定咧係要有痛苦嘅。
Also, problems are there, and one can find a solution to solve problems without suffering. That is also possible.
生命係會有困難、有挑戰嘅，我哋係可以揾到一啲嘅方法去面對呢一啲嘅挑戰同埋困難，係唔一定要去受苦嘅。就係苦其實係唔一定發生嘅。
Oh, someone else can suffer. Oh, I have a problem, I have this problem and that problem, and this problem comes again and again and again. By thinking in this way, one can suffer continuously without solving the problem.
亦都有一種嘅生活嘅方法咧，係可以咧去投訴，覺得有呢啲困難㗎啦，有呢啲㗎啦，咁就會不停咁樣去投咧就解決唔到嗰個問題，咁所以咧重複又重複喺個生命裏邊，重複又重複嘅時候，都喺呢一個痛苦裏邊。
The first thing is there are difficulties, and what we have to do is to find a way to overcome those difficulties instead of suffering about difficulties.
生命裏邊嘅困難挑戰係有嘅，我哋都可以揾方法去解決，就唔一定係需要去有痛苦去受苦嘅。
And the second thing is problems. There are problems and to be solved. So what we have to do is to find a way to solve them. We have to find solutions without suffering. No need to suffer, but we had to find a solution to solve problems.
頭先 sorry that was
Yeah. So what we had to do to the
係
difficulties?
即係第一個。
Yes, please carry on. Yes.
Sorry, because it's frozen, it paused for a little while, so I thought that I would like to translate. So the first
thing is
I just want
difficulties.
to so the first one is that there are people who just repeatedly often
First thing is difficulties. What we have to do is to find a way to overcome them. The second thing is problems are there. They are more heavier than difficulties, problems. So we had to find solutions to solve them.
咁我問清楚咗第一樣嘢就係話生命裏邊係有困難嘅。咁第二樣嘢咧就係話呢一啲嘅問題啦，生命裏邊嘅問題咧，我哋係需要去揾一啲解決嘅方法嘅。
But uh, uh, ordinary minds means untrained minds are suffering because of difficulties and because of problems. Whenever, when, yes, please carry on.
Yeah, it's. I think that the internet is not very stable, so it's like a little bit of in and out. So I'll try to translate what I can hear. So I just want to double check that.
Well, the ordinary minds are
Sorry.
suffering. The ordinary minds are suffering whenever a difficulty comes and whenever a problem arises.
Let's see if this other route work or not.
Yeah, this is a good example for difficulties. This is a difficulty. We are having a difficulty. But we don't have to suffer because of this.
老師話咧，呢一個咧就係一個好好嘅例子啦。我哋而家就遇到一個困難啦，咁我哋咧係可以因為呢一個困難而受苦嘅，但係都可以唔係因為呢個，即係可以雖然有困難，亦都可以選擇唔受苦嘅。
Also, there was a problem of internet and so you had to find a solution and you found the solution. So once again, no need to suffer.
係啦，嗱，我哋遇到呢個網絡嘅問題啦，咁我哋就要揾一個方法去解決啦。咁解決到嘅時候，咁我哋就唔使受苦啦。
Therefore, dear friends, that's why we had to meditate. This is the purpose of meditation.
所以咧，同修，我哋係需要禪修嘅，因為咧禪修咧就可以幫助我哋去解決問題啦。
On one hand, the meditation helps us to solve our problems, so find out solutions for our problems. On the other hand, the meditation helps us to not to suffer because of problems.
禪修咧係有兩樣嘢可以幫助我哋嘅。第一個就係有困難嘅時候，禪修係可以幫助我哋去揾呢個解決嘅方法啦。第二樣嘢咧就係禪修咧，亦都令到我哋咧唔需要受苦，縱然係有困難，我哋都係可以唔使受苦嘅。
So there are two kinds of mentalities. The first one called ordinary mentality, ordinary minds. Ordinary minds are suffering out of whatever difficulty is there and out of whatever problem is there.
咁有兩種嘅心啦。第一種嘅心咧，就係冇受過禪修訓練嘅，普通嘅心。咁呢一種嘅心咧，佢喺生命裏邊遇到嘅困難咧，都會受苦嘅。
And The second type of mind called trained mind or advanced mind. And the advanced mind or trained mind is not suffering because of whatever difficulty is there or because of whatever problem is there.
而第二種嘅心咧，就係、受過訓練嘅心，同埋咧advanced 點樣翻譯啊？高級，真係高級，高級高級禪修訓練嘅心，高級訓練嘅心，有高級訓練咗嘅心，呢種第二種嘅心咧，咁佢因為受過訓練，咁所以咧，就算喺生命裏邊遇到困難，佢都可以係唔去受苦嘅。
And we also have lot of experiences on this subject, and we also know some people who are like this, that they don't want to solve problems, they don't want to overcome difficulties, they just think over and over and suffering over and over.
我哋可能都會認識好似咁樣嘅人，咁因為佢哋係第一種嘅心啦。咁所以咧，佢哋喺生命裏邊遇到困難嘅時候咧，佢哋就不停咁樣受苦，係不停咁樣受苦嘅，重複咁受。
So according to the Buddhism, that is called untrained mind. Untrained mind.
喺佛教裏邊咧，呢一種咧就係、未受過訓練嘅心。
And dear friends, the mind is to be trained.
親愛嘅朋友啊，心就係要受訓練㗎。
The mind is not something like ready-made. It is not perfect.
我哋個心咧唔係一出 ready made，即係唔係一出嚟咧就已經係圓滿㗎啦，完美嘅。
It is our responsibility to train our mind to improve its skills.
To improve its skill。哦，OK。咁係我哋嘅責任嚟嘅，去訓練我哋自己個心，令到我哋個心可以穩定落嚟，其實係我哋嘅責任嚟嘅。
And usually, whenever the mind is facing to some difficulties or some problems, then the mind is being stuck. The usual mind, untrained mind, is being stuck inside of that difficulty or inside of that problem.
未受過訓練嘅心，當遇到困難嘅時候咧，好多時都會被困咗喺嗰個困難裏邊。
And then the difficulty is everywhere, all over around the mind, and the problem is around the mind. Then the problem is the life, the problem is the world, the difficulty is the world, and the mind is inside of it and suffering so much.
咁因為咧呢一個心係未受過訓練嘅，咁所以咧呢一啲嘅困難同埋挑戰咧喺生命裏邊遇到嘅咧，咁嗰個心咧就會喺裏邊啦，佢周圍喺呢一個心嘅周圍都係圍繞住呢啲嘅困難，咁所以呢一個心咧就不停咁去受苦，不停咁去受苦，咁亦都係因為咁樣咧，呢一個心就會覺得啊，生命就係苦嘅，呢個世界就係苦㗎啦。
Usually, the untrained mind is penetrating into difficulties, penetrating into problems, going into the middle of problems and difficulties and being stuck there.
冇受過訓練嘅心遇到困難嘅時候，就會不停咁樣向嗰個困難嘅中心去，咁一路想去入去嗰個困難裏邊，然之後咧就會被困住咗喺入邊啦。
And then that mind is complaining about everything, or is full of difficulties, full of problems.
咁而呢一個心咧就會去投訴啦，就會埋怨啦。點解呢個生命係咁多困難嘅咧？點解呢個生命係咁痛苦嘅咧？係充滿咗痛苦嘅咧？
Dear friends, this is one of the skills what we have to cultivate to not to sink into difficulties or into problems.
啊，朋友啊，我哋其實就係要去訓練咧，我哋個心咧就唔好嗰個心咧就好快咁樣就走咗入去個困難裏邊，之後咧就困住咗喺裏邊啦。
By sinking, no one can find any solution or no one can go beyond.
老師話咧，走入去嗰個困難，好似就係你好似沉咗落去咁樣，好似係一個沉咗落去一個水嘅嗰個感覺，好似沉咗落去個困難裏邊咁樣。佢話，但係呢一樣嘢係揾唔到解決方法嘅。當你個心已經係沉咗入去個困難裏邊嘅時候，係解決唔到問題嘅。
Yeah, now I think you have some kind of picture about uh, the message that difficulties are there, problems are there, we are here, and usually what happens is we sink into difficulties and problems, and then life is full of problems and full of difficulties.
我希望咧，你而家大概有呢一個概念啦。有困難挑戰嘅，咁我哋亦都喺呢一度。咁但係咧，如果我哋走咗入去個困難嗰度，同埋咧好似沉咗落去呢一個水底，呢個困難嘅水底嘅時候咧，咁我哋就會覺得呢一個人生或者呢一個生命咧，都係好痛苦嘅。
And with this picture, you can also imagine there is a way to not to sink, not to penetrate, not to being absorbed into any problems or any difficulties. There is a way to stay outside.
你可以明白睇到呢一個嘅畫面嘅時候，咁同時間你都會知道，其實係可以有個選擇嘅。我哋係可以唔好沉咗落去呢一個困難嘅水底嘅，我哋係可以唔好俾個困難咧將我哋吸咗入去嘅。
Therefore, it's a skill to uh, to practice and to cultivate to stay as an outsider, to stay as a observer to the life, to whatever happens in the life.
我哋咧係可以咧去訓練自己咧，令到自己係可以好似一個旁觀者咁樣，係去睇面對生命裏邊，去睇生命裏邊嘅困難，係唔需要走咗入去嘅。我哋係可以跳咗出嚟睇住佢，作為一個旁觀者。
Only skillful minds can stay as outsiders to whatever happens in the life or whatever happens in the world.
呢一個係一個技巧，我哋係可以訓練呢一個技巧嘅。只有咧受過訓練嘅心，先至有呢一個能力，唔好沉咗落去，而係可以做一個旁觀者，生命嘅旁觀者。
So, untrained mind, trained mind. So, there is a gap and how to transform this untrained mind into the trained mind, how to do this transformation.
所以你睇到啦，有未受過訓練嘅心係點樣嘅，受過訓練嘅心又可以點樣嘅？咁佢哋兩個係好唔同㗎，有受過訓練同冇受過訓練嘅。咁我哋點樣樣係可以咧由冇受過訓練嘅心可以轉化訓練，我哋變成可以有訓練嘅心咧？
Um, Usually, the mind is always falling into problems. There is a tendency to falling towards difficulties and problems. Whenever some problem or difficulty or unpleasant things happen, the mind, ordinary mind or untrained mind, falls down towards it, not away from it, towards it.
未受過訓練嘅心咧，遇到困難嘅時候咧，就會有一個趨勢咧，係會跌咗落去個困難嗰處，好似跌咗落去咁樣嘅。咁佢就唔會有能力咧，係可以企或者係離開呢一個困難，係會跌咗落去個困難，好似就跌低咁樣。
And therefore, dear friends, if we say don't fall into the problems, don't suffer because of difficulties, it doesn't help. It doesn't work. How much time we say, and how many people say, so don't suffer, don't suffer, don't suffer. It doesn't work because the ordinary mind or poor minds are falling to problems.
咁因為咧呢一個未受過訓練嘅心咧，嗰個傾向嗰個習慣咧，就係向嗰個困難嗰度跌落去嘅。就算周圍嘅人同佢講：你唔好跌落去啦，你唔好受苦啦。你就算講幾多次咧，咁嗰個心都係會跌咗落去嘅，因為嗰個係一個新嘅習慣嚟嘅。
Therefore, our minds or our ordinary minds need some support to stay straight.
所以咧，未受過訓練嘅普通嘅心咧，其實需要有一啲嘅支撐，有一啲嘅支持，佢先至唔會咁容易跌咗落去，向嗰個問題跌咗落去嘅。
So we had to find a support. We had to give the mind some support to stay straight whenever things are happening, whenever difficulties are, problems are happening, then we had to support our mind to stay straight.
我哋咧需要咧支持我哋個心，咁呢一個支持先係可以令到個心咧係企得直嘅，而唔係咧就跌咗落去傾倒咁樣跌咗落去個問題嗰度。咁我哋係需要有個支持俾呢一個心嘅。
And that's the thing what the meditation is doing. Uh, with the meditation, we energize our mind. The mind becomes energetic by by practicing, especially concentration meditation.
我哋咧去幫助點樣去被支持呢一個未受過訓練嘅心咧，就係、去做禪修嘅訓練啦。咁係尤其咧係呢個呢個止禪止禪，呢個修練咧呢個止禪嘅訓練咧，咁就可以幫助我哋個心可以企得穩。
And all of you, you have this experience, and you can experience that with this concentration meditation practice, your mind becomes stronger than before.
如果你哋有練習過止禪嘅，可能都有呢一個經驗啦，就係咧收集止禪之後咧，你個心咧就會係更加有能量嘅。
So this is the first thing uh, why we had to meditate. And the second thing is we had to introduce some different uh, way of looking to our mind, how to look situations, how to look incidents, how to look happenings. We have to introduce a new system to the mind.
咁第二個嘅步驟咧，即係第一個步驟就係去收集指示啦，令到個心更加係有能量啦，可以企得直。第二個咧就係、我哋需要咧介紹一啲新嘅唔同嘅睇法咧，去俾我哋個心嘅。
And that's the thing what the awareness is doing. The awareness. So we introduce the awareness to the mind. This is the second stage of meditation.
第二呢一個步驟咧，我哋就要去介紹我哋個心啦，令到個心有覺知，識得去覺察有覺知嘅。
Before mind thought, I must think now. I must think. But with the awareness, now mind can observe. The mind can monitor. The mind can watch whatever happens without thinking.
之前個心咧係遇到困難就會好自然、好有習慣咁樣就跌咗落去啦，就沉咗落去個水底啦，困難嘅水底裏邊。但係而家咧一個有覺知嘅心咧係可以變為一個旁觀者啦，我哋可以去睇呢個心，可以去睇住嗰個困難，可以去觀察呢一個困難。
So, dear friends, uh, there are two aspects of our meditation practice. The first one is called concentration meditation, which is energizing the mind, which is making the mind stable.
所以咧，我哋係有兩個步驟去訓練呢一個心嘅。第一個步驟係一個止禪嘅訓練，咁令到我哋個心咧係可以更加嘅有能量。
And the second practice is the awareness. The mind has to be aware, to observe, to watch, to know what is happening.
而第二個步驟咧，就去訓練有覺知嘅心。咁當我哋呢一個心有覺知嘅時候咧，佢就可以去觀察、去睇、去了解啦。
So these are our main practices in first couple of days of this retreat.
咁嚟緊嘅呢兩日咧，我哋就會去練習呢兩種嘅禪修方法啦。
Making our mind stronger and introducing the awareness to the mind.
呢兩個步驟就係訓練我哋個心，等我哋個心喺個止禪嘅訓練裏邊會更加定、更加有能量。第二個步驟就係訓練我哋個心去有覺知。
Only then, only after that, uh, we can see is there any suffering, uh, or is life suffering, or is the world suffering, or is the suffering reality. We can uh, judge or we can decide after that.
經過呢兩個訓練之後咧，我哋再去睇翻生命裏邊嘅困難問題嘅時候，我哋先至可以真正咁知道，咁係咪係一個生命就係苦嘅咧？係呢一個只係受苦嘅方法咧？
Mm. Thank you very much, dear friends, for listening to this first introduction talk of the retreat.
親愛嘅朋友，好多謝你去留心咁樣去聆聽呢一個第一個嘅開示。
Thank you, dear Catherine, for translating.
Very welcome。
多謝 Captain 翻譯。
係多謝係。Thank you very much, Mr. Upul, for your teaching.
You're welcome, and see you later for the guided meditation.
老師話陣間我哋會再見面嘅，我哋再會做一個禪修嘅，有導人嘅禪修嘅。Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Welcome.